I don't know what was going on, but so glad you're here. We kick off this new message series, Route 66. And Route 66, the Mother Road, was a really important road to our country. And this is the 100th anniversary of that opening up that road. And it went from Chicago to Santa Monica, and kind of took a deep dive into the South and different things. Mostly it was a two-lane road when they built it, and it went through St. Louis, but after St. Louis, it kind of got it, like it was mostly the small towns. And so all the people along the route were very excited because they just saw dollar signs going. And so they made interesting and creative little motor inns and gas stations and restaurants to attract the folks that were going on there, and loaded up their station wagon and decided to go see the ocean, right? And so that's what they did. So they built these giant kind of structures of, maybe a dinosaur or a fireman or a cowboy. And that was to attract people to come in and take a look, right? Come stop at our place, buy our stuff. And still to this day, those giant structures are well guarded and almost revered, and everybody wants to get their picture taken with that giant thing. People from all over the world are coming to our country just to take that road trip this year because of the nostalgia that goes along with Route 66. I like a good road trip. I took a road trip yesterday in my Mustang and headed out to Valparaiso, Nebraska, a little spot just north of Lincoln. And I spent a couple of years in Valparaiso. Well, I didn't live there, but I would preach there every weekend when I was in college. And so they had a big car show there yesterday, and I'm just going to go. I got in there and headed down to Valparaiso, and it was great. I got the picture with the church building and things, and so it really was really helpful. On the way home, I don't know what happened, but there on 92 there were miles and miles and miles of classic cars heading west, and I don't know where they were going. I was not real happy about it because I thought, well, shoot, I didn't get invited to that. And I'd have gone, and it was really fun. And, I just waved the whole time. There were people on the sitting on the highway, so people knew about it. They were waiting for all the cars to go by. So everybody does, right, like a good road trip. So we are going to start a road trip today through the 66 books of the Bible. We're not going to go, we're just going to hit the highlights, kind of like on Route 66. You just pretty much go with the highlights. I want to see this, I want to see it. You don't stop at everything, and so we're not going to pretend to stop at everything here. That would just take us a very long time. But we are going to hit some of the highlights, and we found out that some of our folks were like the Bible is a very intimidating book for you. And it is hard. It is a very hard book to understand, because there's 66 books in this one book, and it doesn't read like a novel, and oftentimes you kind of get bogged down. You start over on the left-hand side with Genesis, and Genesis is a fun book, like creation things, and there's some intrigue and a murder, and there's different stuff that goes on in there, and so Genesis is pretty fun. And Exodus, hey, people got out of Egypt and got, that's kind of cool. Exodus, Leviticus, not so much. Who are the Jebusites and the Hittites and the Moabites? I don't know. And you keep going, Deuteronomy. Seems like I just read that. Didn't we just, what? And okay. And you feel bad because you stop, right? You stop, give up. I don't know what to do now. And you don't want to tell people you stopped reading the Bible. Right? That's bad. You can't. It's like falling asleep when you're praying. You don't want to tell people you do that. So it's it's hard because some of the books are poetry things, and some of the stuff is prophecy and weird. It's just hard. So it is a hard book to get through. And there's an Old Testament and a New Testament. You know why it's called the Old Testament? It's older. You're welcome. See, I'm helping you. So the Old Testament simply means Old Covenant, It's an old relationship that God had with the nation of Israel and when specific people in the Old Testament. So there was an Abrahamic covenant and a covenant with Noah. Remember the rainbow thing? That was a covenant relationship that God had established with Noah. Do this stuff. Go into the boat, right? Promises kept. You will be saved. And so Noah did, and he fulfilled the covenant, right? So there's a few old covenants that God had with his people. And then there's this new thing that Jesus does. So when Jesus comes onto the scene, he says, I'm going to give you a new covenant, a new relationship. It is based on different promises than we gave to Abraham, different promises than we gave to Noah, different promises, right? And so those are old, those are past. We don't have those anymore, and we don't have to live according to those covenants anymore. We have a new covenant based on, by the way, better promises. Abraham had a promise, hey, you're going to have lots of land, cattle, and kids. And that sounded pretty good, yeah. And so still to this day, there are people who will teach that the Abrahamic covenant, that old covenant, is for Christian people. You're going to have lots of land, cattle, and kids. Maybe not. You might go, I don't know if I want a lot of kids. But basically that was so important, right? That you would multiply and become a great nation. So we know, so sometimes teachers will say, hey, God wants you to be wealthy. He wants you to be rich. He wants you to be powerful. He wants you to be, right? And now that was old. This is a new covenant based on better promises. So we make we don't make an agreement with God. He makes an agreement with us. He says, here's the deal. Take it or leave it. You can have it if you want to. And that is, the whole New Testament is about this new agreement and how to live in covenant with God. So we'll get to the new one in 5 weeks. Old stuff today. And why do we look at the old stuff? Romans 15 tells us. Such things were written in scriptures long ago to teach us. So one of the reasons we have the Old Testament still to this day is that it teaches us what? The scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently. There's other ways to wait, right? So we're going to wait patiently for God's promises to be fulfilled. So the old covenant gives us hope and encouragement. Why? Because we can read it and go, oh, he promised, he did it. He promised, he did it, he promised. And there was unfaithful stuff that was going on, but God still cared for his people through that time. It should give us hope. We read those stories going, oh yeah. And that's why it's important to remember those things. In the movie Rudy, the story of Daniel Rudiger, who wanted to play football for Notre Dame, everyone, including his family, told him he would never make it. You're not going to make the team. You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. You're not going to do it. Well, that was true. He wasn't. He wasn't big enough or strong enough, but his heart was. And so he stuck with it. And by his senior year, he got to play in the last game for 2 snaps. They carried him off the field because of that. Halfway through the movie, Rudy enters into the hallowed grounds of the Notre Dame locker room. Locker to locker, he begins to list the great Notre Dame heroes, the 4 horsemen, Knute Rockne, Moose Krause, Angela Bertelli, Johnny Lujack, and Paul Horning, all who had dressed in those places. Those memories of those giant people that went before him kept him motivated and kept him going. So, we're kind of entering into the locker room stage here today. So I hope that there will be some people that you will get a hold of during this message series that will give you inspiration to keep going. The first we're going to look at is a giant wall. The nation of Israel had just landed into the promised land. They crossed the Jordan River. You remember they had to wander around for quite some time because God let them up, and they finally got up to the Jordan River, and they were stuck. Like, what do we do? And he parts the water, and he promised them he had promised them that there'd be a land of milk and honey, and so this is it, right? They're finally crossing into the promised land. Moses had died. He didn't get to go in. But Joshua takes up the responsibility of the leadership of the nation. And now the challenge is before them. Joshua chapter 6, verse 1. The gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. So they had heard. They had heard what God had done for them, how God had rescued them out of Egypt, and how God had taken the plagues and all that kind of stuff. Word got around. Still, years later, word still is, these people are powerful. Their God is powerful. Parts to see stuff, right? And so they're afraid. So Jericho is the first city on the path. No one was allowed to go in or out. But the Lord said to Joshua, I've given you Jericho, its kings and all its strong warriors. So it's already done. It's a done deal. You and your fighting men should march around the town once a day for 6 days. 7 priests walk around the ark and each carry a ram's horn. And on the 7th day, you're to march around the town 7 times. Priests blowing the horns. When you hear the priest give one long blast of the ram's horns, have all the people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse and people can charge straight into the town. I don't know how Joshua told the people that. Like, here's our strategy. This is what we're going to do. We're going to march around and shout a little bit. Let's do this, because it doesn't sound like a great battle plan. Like, people are like, I don't think Joshua knows what he's doing. Moses seemed to know, but Joshua, he seems like a pretty reluctant leader. Like, can we at least throw a spear or something? Can we just do something, weapon things? Who's bringing the swords? Just bring a ram's horn thing. We're going to blow it. Okay. We're all going to die. That's the plan? This is the plan we're going to do? March around, blow the horn. Ugh. So, they begin. Day 1, walk around. And I suppose the people of Jericho thought that these people were nuts. This is crazy. They ain't serious people. They ain't going to, like, why are we worried about these people? They just walk around blowing their own horns. Thank you. Day 2, doing the same thing. Day 3, day 4, and I suppose the people are going, what are we doing? This is not working. I don't see it. There's not even a crack in the wall. We're all going to perish. Day 5, I don't know. This is day 6, gosh. And then someone says, day 7, we're going to walk around 7 times. Oh, great. Great. Yeah, that'll work. That'll be fun. What are we going to do after the 7th time and the walls are still, what are we going to do? Maybe Jericho was a little afraid at first, but not so much. So Joshua 6, verse 16 says, the 7th time around, the priests sounded the long blast on their horns. Joshua commanded the people, shout, for the Lord has given you the town. And we know this to be true. The walls came tumbling down. Now, God gave some specific instructions. Follow this, and you will prevail. Right? That's it. Follow this, and you will prevail. So they did. It didn't seem like Joshua knew what he was doing, and it certainly didn't seem like God knew what he was doing. Walking around playing a trumpet or something doesn't seem like a great military strategy. Maybe we should come up with something else. But they did it. They did it. Hebrews 11:30 says, it was by faith that the people of Israel marched around Jericho for 7 days, and the walls came crashing down. It was by faith, because none of it made sense. It didn't make sense to anybody. It was by faith. Every single step, every single day was a step of faith. The first step was a step of faith. The second one, the third one, the second day, the third day. Every single day they took a step of faith, even though it seemed ridiculous. Didn't make any sense at all. Have you noticed that steps of faith, steps of obedience don't always make sense? Because we think, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why do I have to do that? Why is God being ridiculous? I don't know. Well, Isaiah 55:8 says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. So he lets us know right up front, the way you think, the way I think, it's probably going to be opposite. You're going to think one way about stuff, and I'm going to be thinking a different way about stuff. And somehow, in some way, if you want to do it your way, right? I did it, right? It gets us nowhere. If all of a sudden the nation of Israel decided to take things in their own hands, say, I'm going to do it my way, your way seems dumb. I'm doing it my way. When do we get a fight? I'm sure they thought. It lasted a whole week. But it was in the endurance that they saw the victory. It was in the endurance. Psychologist Angela Duckworth has done extensive research on what determines success. So she studied thousands of individuals at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, also at the National Spelling Bee, as well as teachers that taught in tough neighborhoods. What made them successful, she wanted to know. And she discovered that it was not wealth or privilege or physical prowess. What makes a person successful, she figured it out. It was grit. Grit is what makes people successful. Passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. It is the ability to stick with it for weeks and months and maybe even years. It is the single most important factor for success. I remember when my son went to basic training, and I didn't know this at the time, but he said, I wanted to quit on the first day. Everybody was yelling at me. He didn't like that anyway, right? Everybody was yelling at me. Grit got him to the second day, and then the third, and the first deployment, and the second. Grit is what sees you through, and you know this to be true. So, how do you get grit? I made this up, so this is my own stuff, right? It's not chat GPT or whatever it is, right? So, G stands for get over yourself. You need to get over yourself. If you're going to have grit, you have to get over yourself. You do not have all the answers, and you are not smart enough to figure it all out. That has landed us where we are in a culture. The fact that we think that we know better than God about our sexuality, about our finances, about our marriages, about our relationships. We know better than God. And it has landed us in a mess. We think we can do it. We think we're smarter when it comes to marriage than God is. When it comes to our money, when it comes to defeating the demons that we have to deal with. So here, this might blow your mind. But you should probably write this down, because you need to know this, right? Okay, here we go. There is a God, and you are not it. So, I know a lot of disappointed people here today. There is one, you're not it. Job 38:4, and we're going to drill hard on this one in a few weeks. So in a few weeks, we're going to deal with Job, and there's a giant problem he's got. In Job 38:4, it says, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding." So God's kind of letting Job know, actually, I'm God. Okay, get over yourself. R stands for realize where you are. Sometimes we have to have a moment where we define reality. Sometimes people define reality for our own lives, but sometimes I have to come to a place where this is where I'm at right now. And do I want to stay here in the next if I was to look at my life from here to here, right? I got 5 years, 10 years, whatever. This is where I'm at now, and we have to define ourselves where I realize where I'm at now. And there is no secret pill. No shortcuts. It takes purpose from here on out. Where do I want to be in 5 years with my marriage? Somebody should ask that question. Because I promise you, nobody's going, in 5 years I want to be divorced. Certainly when you stand up in front of the pastor, you're not thinking that. Maybe you are thinking, I don't know if this is going to work out or not, right? Can't imagine that we would stand in front of God and other people and the preacher and thinking, I don't know. I'll give it 2 years. It really, we have to define, in where do I want to be? Like, I'm getting married. Like, where do I want to be? I'm getting a new job. Where do I want to be? I'm enrolling in college. Where do I want to be? Do I really want to be here? Like, all that stuff, we should define it for ourselves. Whatever career path, by this time I want to be an spiritually, we should define for ourselves, where am I at spiritually? I got 10 weeks on the Route 66 things. Where do I want to be spiritually? Well, I want to know more about the Bible. I'm going to start praying. I'm going to join a small group. I'm finally going to do what, right? I'm finally going to do that. Define for yourself. By the way, I think really the church is perhaps the only place where we think it's okay for somebody to start and get baptized and then do nothing for the rest of their life spiritually. We don't even think it's a problem. We don't talk to anybody about that. Hey, I don't know. We got to start doing that. Hey, have you found your way to a small group? Are you going to go? Or are you just going to stay put where you're at? I don't know, maybe someday. Right? That's unacceptable. I stands for investment. Time, energy, money to get to where you want to go. You don't get to Santa Monica without it, right? You got to invest time and energy and money to get where you want to go. I want to go see the ocean, right? I'm going to get on Route 66. I'm going to do this. And the Israelite people, we want to get into the promised land. No days off. The walls are not going to fall down by themselves. We're just going to do it. It takes investment. T stands for teamwork. The whole nation got involved. The old folks didn't say, well, I guess we're just going to take some time off and coast for a little bit. It's your turn. I've been doing a lot of walking most of my life. I don't know why I have to keep walking. It takes a team to knock down a wall. We all need a group or help us move forward. When the walls fall down, they all go in and destroy stuff. Now, before they go and destroy the whole place, they have to do something. They have to get the prostitute out. Remember Rahab, the prostitute who sheltered the 2 spies that came into their town and kept them safe? And she said, hey, I'll keep you safe, but when you guys come in here, will you save my life? And they made a promise to her. So before they destroy everything else, they get the prostitute and her family out. You see, sometimes our faith saves those us around us. So that's what they do. Your faith decision as well saves other people. Your act of obedience to God can save other people, bring other people to a relationship with Jesus Christ. But your disobedience can also affect people as well. So after this great victory, they destroy the fortified city of Jericho. Lots of people, a lot of happiness, and we're doing this great. We're entering the promised land, and they're high-fiving, and they go like, "What's next? What's next? What do we do next?" Right? Because they're just going to keep moving. And Joshua says, AI is on the next. AI, and I think that's funny. AI, right? We should destroy AI, right? Okay. Say anything about that. I don't think that's, but that was the next town. It was a puny little town. It was a piece of cake. We just defeated Jericho. Hey, let's go. And so Joshua sends not a lot of people to do it, but they get defeated real handily, and it was embarrassing. And Joshua's like, "What is happening? Why did you lead me here? Why did we get a win in Jericho and AI?" And he's all messed up. In Joshua 7:1, it says, Israel violated the instructions about the things set apart for the Lord. A man named Achan had stolen some of these dedicated things, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. So Achan, a guy, takes some stuff that wasn't his and keeps them for himself. And I'm sure he probably thought, "Hey, I don't even know why we're destroying all this stuff. I could sure use a little bit of stuff. And nobody's going to, it's not," even though they were told to destroy everything, he probably just thought, "I think nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to even know." And he shoves a few things in his pockets and maybe in his backpack. And Joshua 7:10 says, "But the Lord said to Joshua, 'Get up. Why are you lying your face like this?'" So some took some stuff. They're told not to. See, this whole story is about obedience. It wasn't in the walking or the shouting that was magical. It was in the obedience that they saw victory. And it was in the disobedience they found defeat. It is really that simple. Living a life where we think, "Hey, let me see what I can get away with," keeps me from experiencing God's victory in my life. We're always, all the time, we're thinking like Achan. See what that's not a big deal. Every decision I make affects somebody else, my family. Sometimes we think, "Well, it's my life, my choice, doesn't affect anybody, leave me alone, I got this." Only for those decisions to lead everyone who is close to us to a defeat. Victory comes in walking step by step in faith. Okay? We are a holy nation, dedicated to the obedience to Jesus. All right, you can do this. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for the story that we have looked at today, the great faith of the nation and the leadership of Joshua. May we be as bold. In Christ I pray. Amen. All right. You guys have a great week. Pick up this as you leave. We'll see you next weekend.